And you know that he never smoked crack. The white boy is back, cause you know he's the white boy.
Shut up and sit down, you big bald fuck.
Alright, let the demonetization commence. Shut up and listen for a minute. Something is going deeply wrong in the hobbies that I love. And I want it to stop. It's been going on for fucking years now. And I thought at some point people would come to their senses. I thought at some point people would remember their history. I thought the elders of the gaming community would remember the kind of shit that used to happen to them, and they would put some kind of stop to this. I thought the people in charge, who are mostly amongst the older generation of gamers, would put a stop to this. But rather it is being indulged and engaged and even enforced. And I've been through a lot of this rigmarole before, and I thought we'd seen the back of it, but it just keeps coming back. And it really, really does need to stop. You may or may not have been following the clusterfuck in the Magic the Gathering community. It's not a community I personally am part of and never really got into Magic, but you know, I work in the gaming field. I'm interested in what's going on in games. I'm interested in the culture. I'm a free speech campaigner. I'm interested in issues around that. I'm interested in issues around censorship, whether it's governmental, private or social. And all of this intersects, if you'll pardon the term, in what's been going on there. The capsule review version is that there is a somewhat controversial figure, Unsleeved Media, The Quartering, both of those here on YouTube and elsewhere. Now, the degree to which you might think this guy is a dick might vary, but let's just fucking go for it. Let's say he's a giant throbbing bell end of a man with opinions on things that not many people like. Okay, fair enough. Lots of people have opinions on things that other people don't like. But here's the thing. Jeremy has expressed these things outside of official events and so on. So he runs a media channel, basically. He would do box openings and discuss Magic and events and so on in it. But at events, he was a perfectly reasonable, nice guy who never had any problems from the looks of it, from everything that we've seen. But he has opinions on YouTube and on Twitter and on Facebook and elsewhere that other people don't like. I don't agree with a lot of his opinions. But people have taken what he has said elsewhere and they have drawn it into the Magic community and used it as a basis upon which to ban him from participating in the big events. I mean, there's nothing you can do to stop someone just playing, but he's essentially been cut off from anything official, and in addition to that has had his Magic Online account stopped and the stuff that he bought and paid for through that taken away. All on the basis of stuff that he's done completely outside of that world. Outside of official events, outside of conventions, outside of conduct actually on Magic Online. Now, this doesn't strike me as particularly reasonable or right, and this is a matter of principle for me. So it doesn't matter to me at all how much of a dick Jeremy may or may not have been outside of these contexts. To take that and to use it as an excuse to ban him from something else when he's completely behaved himself within that space is completely unreasonable and unacceptable. And what's even worse is that this happening within this gaming community, this broader gaming community. And even worse than that, people want to apply what has been done to him in other gaming arenas, such as Warhammer 40,000 and others. Things just keep getting worse, and this is happening amongst a community that should know better than to do this. And I went through similar stuff in the 90s and early 2000s. I used to be part of a big LARP society called the Camarilla, and we had people try to pull the same thing there, but back then there was popular resistance to this idea that your conduct and your beliefs and whatever outside of the context of the game should have any bearing on what happens to you in the game at all, whether you should be barred or whatever else. It's just It's not reasonable, but no one seems to understand the concept of principle, or that one can object to something unreasonable being done to someone even if they're a bit of a penis. And the whole thing just blows my mind, especially when people are trying to apply it elsewhere. Well, what the fuck is wrong with you? Do I really have to tell you all yet again the history of your own hobbies? Really? It really wasn't so long ago that gamers were all being painted as Satanists and horrors in the way that video gamers have been more recently. You know, it wasn't so long ago we were being blamed for suicides and the spread of the occult and being part of satanic conspiracies, and it was spurious nonsense. And we provided a safe haven for people being accused of these kind of things. We were a safe haven for the socially awkward, the maladjusted, the unpopular. We were a safe space, if you will, for a lot of people that just didn't fit in. And now it seems like you're trying to turn gaming into the cool kids club, and you're trying to enforce what you believe on gaming in the way that outside forces used to do that, rather than being a genuinely welcoming and inclusive space, even of people we don't agree with or get on with. That used to be the way that it was. You know, you could have people of wildly diametrically opposed beliefs sit down and play a game together, and this other bullshit didn't matter. You know, the moment the game was over, maybe they'd be at loggerheads again, but that was it. You know, that was what was so great about games. And it's what made them so great for me, giving me a place I could be myself and express myself and leave all this bullshit and bullying and all the rest of it aside and be a hero for a few hours, you know? And here you are trying this bullshit that used to be done to us on each other, and it's being sanctioned by the companies that provide our games, being run in many cases by people who lived through the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. Only this time it's not the spurious and nonsensical idea that we're Satanists and cultists or whatever. It's the spurious and nonsensical idea that anyone you disagree with is a fucking Nazi, or that what you believe outside the game space should somehow have some bearing on what happens in a game space. If there's something legal, I can see the argument. If someone has a restraining order on them, I can see the argument of barring them from a convention that the person that put the order out on them is going to. You know, I can see the point there. If someone has a sexual abuse conviction, I can see the argument there for keeping them away. But for disagreeing, for disapproving of something that someone else does, no, I can't see how that's acceptable. And I can't see why anyone would accept the idea that stuff you do outside of that context should have any bearing on what happens inside that context. You know, it's bad enough, right, that it happens with companies, that people will police your social media and look for reasons in stuff you do outside of work to fuck with you at work. That's bad enough. You know, you're a primary school teacher, but you go out on the lash or whatever and get wasted and fucked up and take a few photos. And, you know, some photos of you, you know, a few glasses in, turn up on Instagram, and then the next thing you know, you're in front of the PTA. That is fucking unreasonable. That shouldn't be happening. People shouldn't be losing their jobs or being brought up because, you know, outside of work time they do stuff or they express opinions. And yet that's a fucking plague on our society. But now you're not satisfied with that. You want to go after what people do for fun. You want to go after people's downtime, the games that they play. You want to bar them from that for stuff that they do that has nothing really to do with it, that's outside those spaces. What? Why? As long as they can behave at the events, as long as they can behave there and play and have good sportsmanship and whatever, and set that shit aside, what the fuck are you doing? You're just going to breed resentment. And eventually someone's going to disagree with you. You know, Jeremy, I don't know what his beliefs actually are or whatever. We've got people accusing him of Nazism because he's posted a few Pepe memes or whatever. That's absurd. Other people have been barred for similar. So he disapproves of e-begging cosplayers. So what? He's entitled to his opinion. He's entitled to express it. As long as he's not at a convention going up to someone and calling them a whore or whatever else, who the fuck cares? Block him and move on. You have the means when it comes to online stuff to not experience anything that you don't like. Well, let's scratch this and reverse it, right? Let's just assume everything about him is that people are claiming is true, at least the provable stuff, which isn't much. Well, let's assume this was reversed. What if you turned up to a gaming convention and you were stopped at the door and said, no, sorry, we've checked into your social media activity, and it turns out you're pro-abortion. This is a fine, upstanding Christian convention. We don't want anyone here who's going to make anyone else unsettled. Oh, but I'll behave while I'm here. I'm not going to get into an argument about that. I'm here to play a game. No, out. Furthermore, we're going to confiscate all your gaming material because we're a good, strong Christian country and we don't want heathens a good, strong Christian company, and we don't want heathens having access to our books and so on. So, you can't have them. You're not our fan anymore. We're taking that away. It's fucking absurd, but it happens all the time in reverse. I'm almost virtually as far left and libertarian on the axis as you can get. But I have principles. I'm concerned about other people's rights, even people I disagree with. This is just fucking madness, and this is a community that should know better than to do this. So why are you doing it? And why are you trying to import it into Warhammer now and into other things? And we've seen it elsewhere. Post-Human Studios, who frequently get mistaken for me, unfortunately, they banned men's rights activists and libertarians from their forums. Who the fuck cares? I don't care that conservatives are playing my games. I don't care if the far right are playing my games. They might learn something, might even change their point of view. That would be a good thing, right? It's not like I necessarily set out to proselytize in many of my games, but obviously my attitude is going to come through in them. And if someone through playing my games encounters, my viewpoints or whatever, that can only be a good thing. So why would you cut anyone off from that? How is that going to improve things? Isn't it just going to further alienate and polarize people? So why? What the fuck is wrong with you? And a lot of you claim to care about equal rights and all of this, and yet you will not defend the fundamental and universal human right to free expression, to a private life. Like I say, it's bad enough when it happens in businesses and workplaces, where what you do outside of work is dragged into your work, and some cunt with too much time on their hands takes the fact that you use the word cunt online and uses that to try and get you fired from your job. But to do it to hobbies, to invade people's personal lives with that just because you disagree, to paint them as Nazis and misogynists and all the rest of the bullshit. It's wrong, okay? It's that fucking simple. Have some principles, apply them universally. Have some tolerance, and apply that universally. Wait for the guy to be a dick at an actual event or something, rather than trawling and hunting through everything they've ever done to try and find some excuse to justify banning them just because you don't like them. There's plenty of people I don't like that I have gamed with, or who have bought my products, or whatever else. I don't fucking care. And nor should you. And you shouldn't be invading people's lives just because you disagree with them to try and ruin everything for them. That's just going to make a bitterer, nastier enemy. I go on a lot about how my lack of tolerance for hypocrisy is a personal failing, because a hypocrite is generally at least trying to do the right thing. But I no longer am sure that you're even trying to do the right thing. It honestly seems like you're just a bunch of cunts who have no idea of the history of your hobby, of the traps that we've nearly fallen into before, of the dangers of dragging people's personal lives as excuses to harass them into their hobbies, into their work. And yet this is what you do here. And the irony is that this is what you're accusing them of doing when they haven't done it. And you want this to spread, and it has spread to an extent. You know, I can agree with the professed, at least, aims of a lot of social justice-y types. But what you do is the opposite of what you claim. You are destructive, you are parasitic, you are hypocrites. Many of you, I think, cannot be sincere, because if you were, you would not be acting the way that you do. You would not be doing the things that you do. The reason you're called the regressive left is because of this. And to people like me on the genuine left, it's fucking maddening. You are destroying our reputation and our capacity to get anything done. You're destroying the reputation of our ideologies because you are misrepresenting them. How am I supposed to explain the value of these things to these people when you have spent the last nearly 10 years telling anyone white that they are inherently evil because of the colour of their skin, and yet claiming to be an anti-racist? So if I come up to them with ideas that sound similar to yours, and not as extreme, actually backed by genuine facts and science, how the fuck am I supposed to get through to that person? How? You've made it way more difficult for me. And while professing to be on the left, you're absolutely not. Alright, it might seem like a petty thing to get this worked up over you victimizing people in their hobbies over this shit. But this is a modern problem in the world. We live our lives publicly, but we're denied any separation between the different spheres in our lives. And that's wrong. And we've got this fucking polarization going on everywhere, when things like games should be bringing people together and bridging gaps and showing people that each other are human. And you're determined to bring that polarization into these spaces and make it worse. You know, these spaces are opportunities to heal these rifts, and you're fucking it up. This is this stuff, the games, this is my life, this is my job. I believe they're important. I believe stories are important. You apparently believe they're important as well, but you see the importance as being excluding people and using it as propaganda rather than persuasion. And if that's what you're going to do, then fuck you. You ruin everything. Politics, socioeconomics, and people's fun. And you claim to be doing it for the right reasons, but I no longer believe you. You disingenuous fuckwits. Go boil your head in a bucket of piss. Maybe that'll wake you up. Knock something loose. Zang.
I'm an urban animal, one step from a cannonball.